All right, good day, old school Texas Tech. Jordan and I are going to do our prediction for Texas Tech at TCU in Fort Worth. At one time in my when I lived in the United States full time, I actually officed right by the TCU stadium. I could actually see in the stadium from my office in Fort Worth. Or it wasn't it was like an interim position, but anyway, so I've actually never been to a game there. I know you have, Jordan. You've been to a couple, I think, right?
I've been to one there when we had Mahomes at quarterback.
Okay. Was that the 82 to the 82 was it a close game?
Yeah, no, we won. It was like 20-17. I want to say it might have been 2016. It could have been 17. I don't remember what year it was, but it was like a defensive battle, and then we won by like 3 points or something. It was something like that. It wasn't.
Okay, I vaguely remember that game.
I
I vaguely
remember
remember
that
that.
massacre when it was 82-25 or something like that. It was ridiculous.
That was a real low point. That was a real low point. And the one at Ames with Mahomes. I mean, to think what he's done in his career and to lose both those because Mahomes played in the 82 to yeah,
No,
that was
he
actually
wasn't on campus yet. That one was Kingsbury was coach, but we had Sonny Cumby calling the plays for TCU, if you remember.
yeah, and he did a great Sonny Cumby did a great job as an
He was
assistant at TCU.
co-offensive coordinator, but that 82 to whatever game, that was TCU's, that was the 2014 season. So I don't remember who the quarterback was, but that was a team that couldn't stop anybody from scoring. I don't think Mahomes,
It was Mayfield and Webb.
he was one of the, I think it was one, we could, let's double check that, but I don't think Mahomes was there yet.
I thought he was, and I remember the pregame
You
because
could be
everybody thought Davis Webb was going to start, but Kingsbury accurately offensive line was so bad. There was one of those games where he said we're going to go with Pat because just because of protection and because he could scramble more. But I don't know. We'll research that. We'll
look,
we'll,
that
we'll
was
get
10.
back to.
It's crazy. I think that was 10 years ago. I want to say it was Davis Webb at quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah, well, whoever it was, they
Messing,
didn't have a good day.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, put it if you remember that game, put it in the comments, please, and definitely please subscribe, like, and comment, even if it's a negative comment. We appreciate it. Go for it. All
Yeah,
right,
you're right.
so
You know, like TCU sucks in there. We're good with that. You know, you might get a couple of likes from us. So
yeah, definitely. So I think this week, more than any other week, we had to talk about a little bit about the game last week before we get into this week. So I'll start with you. Like, I mean, what were your? Obviously, it was a horrible game, and it put all of us in a terrible mood. I mean, it was just totally unexpected. I mean, I listened to the radio guys, Jensen and Harris. I've listened to him for a long time back. I mean, even when I was in college, and I don't know that I've ever heard them so shocked on the radio. They were just completely stunned. So, what were your impressions?
same. I mean, I can't really repeat all the stuff that I was saying in here because if y'all would have seen me, y'all would have thought I was a complete lunatic. But a lot of the words,
We'd have to go to the other platform, which is
yeah,
going to happen eventually. Rumble. We will be on Rumble at one point.
let the gloves
Yeah.
off. But I was absolutely shocked. I could not believe that we looked so poor on both sides of the ball at home in a game like that, where we're sitting atop shared first place. We're having a great season and to completely collapse. And they made Baylor look like, I mean, if you would have known nothing about the records, you would have bet $1 million that Baylor was the 5-1 team. We were the 2-4 team. It was a terrible effort all around. I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was very disappointing. Extremely
Except for our running game. We Taj had a good day.
sure.
Yeah, he had a good day.
To let them score 59 points. And what is it with Tech and allowing opposing quarterbacks that number one were on the roster before to light us up, and then a kid from Lubbock that they passed on for Baron Morton comes in and has like the game of his life. Although I'd be lying if I said I knew what Baylor's done all year. They're 2-4. So or 3-4 now. Sorry. I never even heard of this quarterback, but he probably had his best day of his career against us. So
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't know all the statistics. They that I know that offensive coordinator has tech ties from the Kingsbury era. And he also was he in Texas State for a while? Scott I think what's his the offensive coordinator for Baylor has tech ties.
yeah, I
Uh
can't remember. I think you're right. He does have some kind of ties
yeah.
to the school, though. Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody knows, put it in the comments. I think it was an assistant at Tech at one time, and that's happened to us a lot. I remember when Dana Holgerson went up to Oklahoma State, and they started torching us as soon as he got to Oklahoma State. So anyway, it's an interesting series with Baylor. They actually have a 2 game advantage on us, even despite the what do we have like a 17 year win streak against them at one time or something like that, something crazy.
Well, but they've closed the gap if you think from the Art Briles years to now. They won several. Then they went like 5 in a row with Art Briles, and there was a time where they won like 7 out of 10. So I mean that helps.
And then before that long win streak, they did very well against us.
Yeah. But I remember
Yeah.
you're right. There was a time where we had 12 or 13, 14, like you said, in a row. It seemed like they would never beat us again, you know?
It was a long time. I think it even went back to the Southwest Conference days. Maybe it was a long
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
All right. So okay, so that gets us to this week. TCU beats Utah. I didn't watch the game. I don't know. Was there any twist to that game? I mean, why how did that happen?
Wasn't this the score? I think was 13-7. I think I remember seeing
Yeah.
that. Obviously, a defensive battle. Neither offense could get going. I think Utah, and I haven't paid that close attention to them, but they have that quarterback, that Cam Rising kid, who's like 8 years in college. I mean, Alan Bowman has him beat it 10 or 11 years, however many he's been in college. But that guy was out again, and I think the backup just. I think it's a mess. They dismissed their offensive coordinator too.
Oh, they fired him after the game.
They did, or I think he
Oh,
resigned, but
oh,
they
okay.
let him go because I think Utah has not scored at all in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean everybody was predicting them to go to the Big 12 title game, and a lot of people even assumed they were going to win the conference outright.
Well, they've been a consistently good program for you go back the last 15 years, and they've got a lot of good wins. They're a well coached team.
Yeah, I mean one thing I'll say is the Big 12 is proven to be a tough conference. I mean, we're I mean we're beating each other up except for BYU, and I think and as I predicted earlier, I think they're going to lose in Orlando finally. But every time either one of us have bet against them, it hasn't worked out well, obviously, since they're
Yep.
undefeated. So okay, so let's go to the game. What do you think's going to happen in Fort Worth? Score, the general mood of the team. Is Joey up to the? I looked it up. Joey's lost since he's been at Tech. He's actually lost 2 in a row, 4 times. But his first two, there were interesting circumstances to each of them. The one last year where we had the quarterback problems with K-State and BYU. So that was kind of a weird deal. We lost to Baylor and TCU back to back his first year, but TCU was seventh in the country, and Baylor obviously that was his first time to face Baylor as a head coach. And then it seemed like all four of the 2 losses in a row, there was some sort of catch to it, to some extent.
Yeah. So here's my thought on it. I think, with that game being in Fort Worth, their stadium is not very big. I think the max capacity is like 40,000. There's going to be a whole lot of this, a whole lot of red in that stadium. We seem,
Yeah,
if we go back the last couple of meetings, the last 3 or 4, we're not going back to 2014, obviously, but the last 3 or 4 times we've been to TCU to play, we play them tough. Even that year that they got annihilated in the national title game, we played them tough. I think we lost by a touchdown, and
very tough. And there was like a late turnover or something
yeah,
like that.
So we've played them tough in recent games. Um, that's why I think we're going to squeak out a win. I think, but I guess the one concern I do have when you see the Vegas line by TCU 6.5 is that we got a rude awakening against Baylor. And so obviously the odds makers are saying, okay, TCU is now playing a little bit better. Tech just got blown out. They think we're probably going in different directions. And I hope they're wrong. I think our guys are going to emerge and say, hey, you know what? We're better than this. And I think they're going to play decent. Now, if they don't and we get beat up by TCU tomorrow, then we've got bigger issues going into
Yeah,
November.
we've got problems. We're gonna, we could really go on a slide. My fear, I'm about to tell you what I think is going to happen, but my fear is if, and I don't think it's going to happen, but if we do go I'm in Ecuador, but if we do go to if we go out to Fort Worth and we get beat, it's going to remind me of the second Tuberville year when we got the great start and we beat OU on the road. Remember that? And then we slid the rest of the year and lost. I think we lost the rest of our games. We were one game away from bowl eligibility after beating OU, and then we lost the rest of our games, and that broke the bowl
Oh,
eligibility
yeah.
streak. Remember
I,
that?
I do remember
That's
that.
my fear because if you look at the next four games, I mean, even Oklahoma State on the road, as much as they've struggled, that's not a gimme. West
No,
Virginia at home is probably the closest for the last game of the year, but uh, we're facing a former assistant at home. That game scares me. Colorado's hot, super hot,
yeah.
and then Iowa State and Ames is going to be a really tough game. But what I go ahead.
See, if we started 5-1 and ended up like 6-6 or 7-5, I don't even want to. It's going to be
Yeah.
hugely disappointing, especially getting OU and Texas off the schedule. It's one thing to lose 59-24 to the Longhorns right now, who seem to have a pretty good team, but Baylor, come on,
It was a terrible loss. It was a terrible
horrific,
loss.
horrific loss.
I'm trying as I get older not to let it ruin my weekend, but it did. It did. It's immature and all that, but it did ruin my
It
weekend.
kind of did. Okay, I'll just say this, and then we'll get back to the prediction. But I have three teams that I follow: two college, one pro that I like very much, and Tech is obviously at the top of the list. The other two played well and basically dominated and beat up their opponent, but I was more irritated, and the Tech loss evaporated any goodwill that those other two created.
Well, it was homecoming. It was a packed house. Although I will say I was disappointed, especially at the beginning of the game. The crowd was not really that into it. The radio guys like Chris Level, it was saying it just seemed like there just wasn't any oxygen in the stadium. Wasn't any energy. So I was disappointed in that. But Tech. We all know Lubbock's a different place at night. It's just a different atmosphere. But that would have been a real opportunity to have been bowl eligible on homecoming after only 7 games. That would have been a really big deal for the program. But don't get me wrong, we can recover tomorrow. If we go down there and beat TCU, we're still off to a really good start. I think we're getting a little spoiled and a little ahead of ourselves in some ways because we've won 3 bowl games in a row. And I think in general, I mean, there's a lot of complaining, but I know a lot of the people who are like complaining about we hired a high school coach. A lot of those people actually really like Joey McGuire. I mean, they do. They're just frustrated, and I get it. I'm the same way. I think we're going to go down there, and it's going to be a big statement game. I think Taj Brooks is due for like a he's been incredibly good and consistent with all these 100-yard games. I think he's due for like just taking over a game, and I think he's capable of just like when that play against Baylor, even in the loss where he got right to the first down marker, and this is a pretty big guy, and he leaped over like 2 defenders for the first down. I think that he's going to have like a game like that. Um, and so I think Tech's going to go down, and I actually think we might even beat him up pretty good. But I'm predicting I'm going to say a 10-point win. I'm going to say 38-28. I think our offense is going to get hot. We have the second worst secondary in, I forgot if it was Power Four or the country. And then we have, and another concern for me is Duda Banks is out for the year. And he's a really important defensive lineman. But we've had good recruiting classes. Those guys are going to fill in, and I have a lot of confidence in Tim DeRuyter. And I don't think, and special teams was horrible last week. It was a big reason why we
Oh,
lost with special teams.
horrible, horrible.
But Kenny Perry's a great coach. He's a great assistant. He's in it, and if we finish the year out strong, he's already had job interviews. I mean, and Tim DeRuyter's a great defensive coordinator, and I think Kitley gets the strengths and weaknesses of our offense better this year than he has in the past. And so I'm predicting 38-28 Tech, and I'm predicting a huge game for Taj Brooks. And I think Morton will do a good job of protecting the football. I think TCU is going to break some big plays on our secondary, but I think that we're gonna do enough to contain them.
Okay. I'm actually not that far off from your prediction. I mean, in the ballpark. I think it's going to be close all game. I can see TCU going on the first drive, taking about 4 minutes and scoring a touchdown, and we feel that oh, here we go again. But I think it's going to be close the whole way through, and I think Tech pulls away late to win a close one. I'm saying Tech 30-27 over TCU, and I do think that we're going to score. I see something happening where we score with like 3 or 4 minutes left, and then hold on for dear life to win. That's what I see.
Yeah, and it's a rivalry game. I sincerely hope that the Big 12 makes this an annual game. So far, it's not, even though we've played them the last couple of years. I think Tech should be playing TCU and Oklahoma State every year. I think
Totally
those are
agree. Totally agree.
those are our rivals right now, more than Baylor.
I agree, especially with
Yeah,
the Fort Worth. It's a good. I think it's a good game that we should be playing every year. It makes sense to me. It
yeah,
does.
and Stillwater too, and Stillwater Lubbock. That's a great game too.
Yep.
All right, my friend. Anything you want to add? It's gonna be. I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. I really am. The TCU's my that's my since A&M left the conference, that's been my favorite game every year since TCU joined.
Yeah, it's one that I want to win. I know I have a couple friends that went to TCU, and sometimes they love to run their mouths a little bit. So I
They
would love
do, they
to.
do.
I'd,
We do
I'd love to
too,
get some
but
bragging rights in there. You know,
but, but I don't mind if we run our mouth.
6-2. Here we come.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Actually, I looked around at some of the other predictions, some of the neutral predictions, and a lot of them were picking Tech. They were just saying that the turnovers and the special teams got us last week. So I was a little surprised. I know the TCU folks think they're gonna rip us apart, but I don't think so.
I think our guys are going to be pissed off. I hope
They
so.
should be, and the coaches should be. They should be. Everybody should be. All
Yep.
right. We'll
That's
see
all.
you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the game. Please subscribe, like, comment, whatever you wanna say. Tee off on us. Well, you're welcome. Welcome. It's open season on YouTube. We appreciate the Facebook comments, but if you could put it on YouTube, we'd really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.